and I just want to reach out to his family, his wife Mildred, Brinsley, and all the others. Just good evening to you. It was nice meeting you all, and a lot of the politicians at the book of Mr. Barry. They were there in Mr. Ron Green, Mr. Norris Prevost, Edison James, Johnson Boston, I think was a senator at the time as well. You had Urban Baron was there as well. And Stuart Burton from Portsmouth, the former police chief, was his brother-in-law. So I just want to reach out and touch each and every one of them tonight. I also want to touch the people of Monrachet. We had 2 deaths in Monrachet. Lincoln Monrachet, one suddenly, sometime last week, the passing of Jimmy Owen. He's an American national, but he was married to a lady from Monrachet, Emmeline. I just want to extend sympathies to you and the entire family, your mom, Varina, Joseph, and all the others in Monrachet. Sympathies to you. I also want to extend sympathies to the family of the young man, young boy. It's a young man, yes, the boy that got drunk, the infant that got drunk in Corleho, Zion, Oscar. There's an excellent sympathies to his mom from Corleho, Miss Williams, and his dad from Monrachet, and Oliver, Oscar, and all the family, Shirley and everybody. Shirma, good evening to you. All sympathies on the unfortunate passing of Zion. Just want to reach out and touch the communities of Monrachet and Corleho. Yes, and those of you who have lost loved ones, just want to reach out and touch you across Dominica. If you have someone, families are doing too well. Mrs. Paul Joseph in La Plaine, how are you doing tonight? Hope all is well with you. See you soon. PC in Laron and all the others who have lost loved one, all those not doing too well. Those of you at the hospital, I mean, also extend sympathies to the family of Patches Williams from Fonkole, who passed away. His daughter Sabina, who was Sabina is a former senator of the United Workers' Party. She was in Parliament from 2006, somewhere in 2006. I want to extend sympathies to Sabina on the passing of her dad, Patches, and to the entire community of Fonkole and the Yahweh community as well. Good evening to you on the passing of Patches. His first name will come Limwell, right? Yeah, Limwell. Williams, Lindell Williams. His son was Lindell Williams Patches. Good evening to all the members of the family on the passing of Patches. Yes, this evening, welcome back to the Workers' Voice. As I said, the Workers' Voice these days is 1 hour, and we try to utilize our time as effective as possible. That's on behalf of the leadership of our party, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, who is our leader, Deputy Leader, Mr. Clement Masley, our President, Mr. Lennox Linton, Vice President, Mrs. Francisca Joseph, and every member of the leadership of the party. I just want to welcome you to the Workers' Voice program this evening. And in studios with me, I have 2 gentlemen in the studio with me, but there's one I have to bring in first, Mr. Danny Lugie from the Rosenhof constituency. And I am sure that Mr. Lugie will introduce the other gentleman that is in the studios with us. And I hope those of you out there, get close to your radio, call your friends. We have a surprise guest in studios with you, and we'll be speaking somewhat along the line of education. Mr. Danny Lugie.
Yeah, well, good evening, Honorable Hector John. Certainly a pleasure to be in studios. And as you said, we have our special guest. I think about 2 or 3 Thursdays ago, I was in studio. Not as often as I used to be, but it's always good to have new voices, fresh perspectives. So wherever you're listening from, whether it's in United States, let me say hello to my brothers and sister there, to the people of Rosenhof and Rosa South, all the Rosos and every constituency, wherever you're listening from, whether it's another Caribbean island, we welcome you to the Workers' Voice. Tonight, you're not really going to be hearing much from me because it's my pleasure, to introduce a man who influenced my life, both in sports, in integrity. He's my mentor. His name is Dr. Herbert Sabroch. He played a great role in education in the Commonwealth of Dominica and the region. And it's my pleasure to sit in with him. I'll be making a few comments, I'll pop in now and then, but it's really my pleasure to sit in with Dr. Herbert Sabroch. We for many years in the Heineken Saint Sports Club, he was who groomed my skills. Well, he was both involved in football and cricket, and under his watch, I played for Dominica both at the junior and senior level, and he's one of those I depend on for sound advice. He's a man of integrity, and it's my pleasure to sit in studio with him, Honorable John.
Okay, so as you heard, we have with us Mr. Dr. Herbert Sabroch. Some of us call him Sabi. Some of us know him as a politician, a sportsman. I knew him in Heineken Saints as well. He's from Biosh. I know not much about him. I know some of his sons. I work with Norman. I know Stern and the others, his daughters. I know a few of them. And also, what I remember about Sabi back in the day, Dr. Sabroch, and he will be speaking of that, is JSP. I sure remember that one about JSP Junior Secondary Program. Mr. Herbert Sabroch, the mic is all yours. Welcome to the Workers' Voice and Q95, Mr. Sabroch.
Thank you, John and Daniel. Well, I'm happy to be here. I always cherish the opportunity to talk to people, and to share my views, some of which are not accepted, others are accepted. But my idea is to, help people develop themselves to be independent mind, but above all, to maintain that level of integrity and frankness. And sometimes you get into trouble for doing that.
Right.
But, I always look in the air and say, God help me.
Good trouble.
and give me direction in life. Yeah, so here I am, and to share views. Questions will be asked, and I will respond as best as I can.
Yeah.
And, being a little boy from Biosh, being the first from Biosh to attend a secondary school, I got into trouble from the outset to find myself attending secondary school because I questioned on a Friday morning. I questioned the principal, my mentor, Charles Gregoire from Granby. And I questioned him. While assembly is going on, I disturbed the assembly, and I said, I cannot understand how Sonny Boy and Raglan can be going to sit common entrance, and I cannot go. They are older than me.
It's Raglan Riviere.
Raglan Victor.
Victor, okay.
Is in Jubla.
Okay.
Yeah. And, the two of them are going to sit common entrance on Monday, and we're praying for them. They are older than me. They're in standard 6 and I'm in standard 7. And how can I not go? But Charles Gregoire made amends. He called me after the assembly and he said, Mr. Sabroch, why did you disturb my assembly? Couldn't you wait until afterwards to tell me that? And of course I was trembling. But he said, you know something? Yeah, because he had checked his records and so, you were speaking the truth.
Oh, yeah.
But it's too late. We cannot allow you. You'll not be able to go and sit the exams.
You're not registered properly.
You're not registered. But the following weekend, Saturday, there's going to be the grammar school examination, and I will bring you to Roseau. I had never gone to Roseau in my life. And you put me to
What year was that, Savi?
That was in 1958.
Wow.
Yeah. 1958.
Before you were born, Honorable Hector John?
A long time before, long before my
Before
time.
I was born too.
Yeah. He brought me to Roseau on Old Street. I never forget that. I was there. And then the Saturday morning, he brought me to the grammar school where All Saints is.
Right.
Yeah. And I went there and I sat the exam. And they were giving free scholarships. Grammar school were giving free scholarships. And I got with church scholarship. Yeah.
Now,
So I ended
Sabi,
up-
what I would say, we know we're going to be pressed for time tonight.
Yeah.
So we appreciate that introduction.
Yeah.
But I want you to give us a little brief journey in terms of, your doctoral studies. That's a leap. And then after we'll talk about education
In
generally
Dominica, in
in Dominica. Yes, but tell us about your studies on your journey to your doctorate.
Well, I did my first degree at the University of the West Indies, and I did my master's at London University. And then since I migrated to the United States, I was recommended from London University to do my doctorate.
Right.
But, that's a long story.
Yeah.
And since I left Dominica, I decided, well, let me fulfill one of my dreams.
Yeah.
And then I did my doctorate in education leadership.
Right.
Yeah. And so policy and change.
Right.
Yeah. And it's published in the international ProQuest. And so people can Google
And access it.
and access it. Yeah. This is actually a copy of my 301 page
Right.
document.
And Sabi, as you were saying, you in terms of education,
Mhm.
you played as you see your journey, as you was talking about the journey. I think in so what school you studied in this US?
No,
Degree?
I did it online.
Oh, online.
Yeah.
If what? Okay.
With with Walden University.
Okay.
Yeah, and intermittently you meet for 3 weeks, 4 weeks,
Right.
sessions.
Right.
But
Face to face, but mostly
face to face,
Yeah.
but mostly online
Right.
program and so.
And you studied the right area. I wanted to go educational leadership, and you made as I said earlier on. I know you from the JSP days.
Yeah.
Right now, as a somebody that came in the education from the education background from an early age,
Mhm.
you taught, you studied, you write policies. You were in St. Lucia for a long time with the OECS, I think.
Yeah, 5
Right.
years.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell us about education now in Dominica. How do you see it?
I'm so disappointed, because, the direction that, I always, being from BIOSH, I looked at our people and the people who were not able
Right.
to help them to move on in education.
Right.
And I served as the education officer responsible for the JSP, Junior Secondary Program. Students who could not pass the common entrance.
Right.
They're lead developers, some of them. And, to help them and then to
Empower them.
Not only education, but training, skills.
Right.
And I must mention the Goodwill Junior Secondary Program that I almost got into, trouble, when I made the statement that the Goodwill Junior Secondary Program should turn into a full comprehensive secondary school.
Yeah.
And I always get
Because you're talking about skills training, empowering people. Right.
empowering people
Right,
in
right.
employment. Yeah. And
Because what we have lost, Sabi, you made a point, I just want to bring quickly, is that when you finish primary school, when before fathers, grandfathers, or your mother, they will tell you, about education, you finish high school, go and learn a trade.
yeah,
That was
that's
the
right.
thing.
Yeah.
But right now, we move into the academia, and there's a lot of children saying back, they have no skills, no skill training. We have no modules. When the JSP left, we lost everything,
Well, we moved from the JSP to
Uni-
comprehensive secondary school, where the skills
Right.
you would continue, because in the Caribbean,
Yeah.
the prime ministers and everything throughout the Caribbean, OECS,
Right.
decided that, look, skills training is important.
Yeah.
And then free movement, there was legislative direction that free movement of skills throughout the Caribbean. So even though you're from Barbados or Jamaica or you're from Dominica, you could go to any of the other islands once you are skilled and qualified to have those skills, and then you can be employed anywhere. Yeah.
So where we lost our way as Dominica?
Man, you know, the Caribbean, the policies in the Caribbean, right? That is where I came in at the OECS level to give direction. I was chairman of the CARICOM Advisory Committee. Yeah. Giving direction on the countries, but Dominica did not follow the direction of the rest of the Caribbean. And that is why I prepared, after I served as Minister of Education, we prepared a 5-year plan to include that. And then when I moved out, everything, like in Patois they say, Kaikul Kwasi. Yeah. And then in 2006, I said, but let me document the direction, because in the Caribbean, minus Dominica, we moved to the Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination to replace the A-levels. And we moved from the City and Guilds in vocational education to the Caribbean Vocational Qualifications. And we got assistance. We used to get when I was at the OECS, we got $5 million annually to assist all the Caribbean colleges to include technical and vocational education to help our young people to learn a skill and to get a qualification so you can move around the Caribbean and be employed. Because now it is showing that we have people from St. Lucia and other places coming to Dominica to be employed. We could have had Dominicans moving to those other places with the same qualifications and be employed. And we did not take that challenge and then to implement the programs in the Caribbean. So we were left out up to today. Yeah.
Because Hurricane Maria exposed it, because we had to bring all our skilled labor into Dominica to rebuild. By our young men on the roadside jobless. You know, something else in terms of the somebody just messaged me and said that you were the literature teacher at PSS. Somebody's in Texas listening to the program, and says that Sabi was my literature teacher at PSS. In terms of you spoke about the junior secondary program at Goodwill, and then the comprehensive program. How many schools we had as comprehensive secondary schools?
Well, we set up in Goodwill, and I can tell you, we had electricity, auto mechanic.
Yeah, I remember that.
Clothing and textile, food and nutrition, computer technology and science. And, well, woodwork, technical drawing, you know, all those skills at junior secondary level. So we recognized that there was the need to expand, because CXC were moving and providing qualifications in those skills.
Yeah.
So at junior secondary level, to go further in education at sexy level, those same vocational skills, you could get qualifications in them at a regional level. So there was the first Goodwill Junior Secondary School turned into a comprehensive secondary school, and then we moved to Granby, right? The St. Martin School Vocational Secondary School. Yeah, we upgraded St. Joseph, Portsmouth, and so, and we were in the process of doing Castle Bruce.
Right.
So you sort of spread the bread to help our young people gain. Oh, I forgot. Agriculture was one of the areas. I did mention that one. So you expand that. And employment opportunities, and we did not forget the involvement of the private sector.
Yeah.
Because auto mechanic at Goodwill was practically sponsored by all the auto mechanic businesses in Roseau. Yeah, and this is the direction. In fact, that helped me to get the regional job so that I could advise in all the other Caribbean countries to set up comprehensive secondary schools. Yeah.
So where are these schools now? They have lost their way. No,
not in the other countries,
but in Dominica.
But in Dominica. Yeah, it actually hurt me to know that in 2017, the Goodwill Secondary School, comprehensive secondary school, was damaged. We got a lot of assistance from the Canadians.
Yeah.
There's a plaque, a Canadian plaque
At the school.
And all we did was, after Hurricane David, the Canadians helped us to rebuild the Goodwill Secondary School. And we could have done the same thing.
Right.
And we loved the Canadians, and that was it. Yeah. So man, it hurts, that, coming from the background that I have my technical skills too, in construction.
Right.
That's what I used to teach at the college, the Clifton Jupini Community College.
Right.
Yeah, and so skills is important in a country's development, and you have to lay the foundation at the schools so that students can move on and branch out, not only as doctors and lawyers and things like that.
Sabi, as you mentioned, the Clifton Community College, we now have the State College. I'm sure you monitoring and listening as to what is happening up there. You also mentioned the ravages of Hurricane Maria. And, a lot of folks kind of disappointed in what's happening at the State College. What are your observations of the, of our State College and where it could have been and where it should be in the year 2023?
Danny, I wish the public could have seen this document here. Yeah. The master plan for the college, development of the college. Yeah. That was my copy. There's a copy in the Ministry of Education and so. Yeah. The master plan document, drawings and everything to show the direction that the college should be taking. And in addition to that, they advise where we should have introduced what we call the Caribbean Vocational Qualification, the programs, which is being done throughout the Caribbean now.
Let me just read the top of that book, because Sabi is speaking about the book, and for those who are watching it online, they can see But those who listen in my radio, the book that Dr. Sabridge is referring to, it says Commonwealth of Dominica, Ministry of Education and Sports, Project for Renovation and Reorganization of the Clifton Dupini College and the master plan. And that was since January of 1992. Yeah, tell us about it, Sabi.
well, it has not come to pass.
Yeah.
So I can tell you,
Yeah.
yeah,
We dropped the ball.
we dropped the ball.
Yeah, but what was envisaged in that plan, Sabi?
You know, it was sort of preparation to develop involving the private sector. Yeah, because when you attend the college, you had to have an attachment, you know, for your practical skills while you're getting the knowledge at the college. But the involvement of the private sector would help you to the number of students while I was in college who got attachment, and then
Yes.
right away the employer said,
Yeah.
look, we want this guy to stay with us. Yeah. And that's the trend throughout the Caribbean,
Yeah.
because there was the policy, the CARICOM policy, free movement of skills.
Right.
That was established a long time ago. So you get your skills, and you don't need to stay in Dominica. You can move to any one of the CARICOM countries, and then you show your credentials, you show what you can do, and
Develop your craft.
and you develop your craft,
Yeah.
and then you move, you know, and that helped the economy.
Mm.
Yeah, whether it is in agriculture, is in mechanical work, or anything.
You made another very important point, Mr. Sabridge, about the involvement of the private sector.
Yeah.
In terms of having the skills training. When you had the skills training program, the modules with the youth division, that after you do your 6 months in the classroom, your 3 months in the classroom, you get an attachment in a business place.
Business place.
And that would develop it also. When you had it with the college, I remember when they're doing agriculture at this college, every summer we get 4 students
Mhm.
for 8 weeks at DBMC, and they were under my supervision. And some of them have become doctors. Some of them still call me sir.
Yeah.
And because the program, it was working where you had young people doing the stuff in the classroom, but going out there and putting it into action.
Into action.
And we have lost that. And time is not on our side. But what I want us to look at, you as somebody who went through the process, also did a PhD in it. How do we get back on track in terms of getting our young people skilled and trained? How do you see us getting back into the school system, or having a skills training program dedicated at our target our young people?
You know, I cannot forget that in Parliament, when I was in Parliament, and I was talking about the development of education and training in the Caribbean. I served in Parliament from 1995. Right, yeah. And I remembered we were changing the education laws, constitution for education and training. And and I was representing Freedom Party. And when I came to talk on education and training, and so for half an hour, I'll never forget that. Ron Green was Minister of Education and Sports. Ron Green moved the motion that we must give Herbert Sabridge not 1 hour, but an hour and a half to inform us.
That was Parliament before.
In Parliament, to inform us. I was in opposition, and he was in government, and he moved the motion. Give him an hour and a half so he can explain expand and tell us the direction that we must take in education. I never forgot that. And so, and that was the kind of direction that we, so in education, when I became Minister of Education, the first thing was to prepare a 5-year plan to give us direction. But I moved from education to health, and that plan was never followed. I had CXC in Dominica. We started training the people at the college in terms of the direction that we should go in terms of CAPE, the Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination, which replaced the A-level. Up to now, we have not done that.
What about TVET?
TVET, you'll be surprised. The TVET, the way forward. TVET, the way forward, which was followed by the whole Caribbean, because I served advising all the colleges in the Caribbean. TVET, and there is, you see this one, CAPE, Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination, and there is an area where people can Google and so Dominica, we have not followed that. I hear them talking about it now. That is why when I left as a minister, I said, let me document the way forward. This one there, that document there. Yeah.
Proposals to introduce CAPE at the Dominica State College.
That is right. Yeah. That was in 2006. Yeah. And up to today, we have not introduced that.
So all the other islands have left us behind.
No, man. In fact, in the vocational skills in Antigua, levels 1 to 5, Antigua has moved. Antigua has a component of the University of the West Indies.
Right, yeah.
The 5 islands.
Yeah.
And so all the islands. The Caribbean vocational qualification that replaced the city and guilds.
Yeah.
And so that I serve as chairman of the headquarters is in Trinidad.
Yeah.
And Jamaica and all the islands, they move in that direction. And we have not moved yet.
Yeah.
That's shortchanging our young people and opportunities for employment, not only in Dominica, but throughout the Caribbean and the world.
Right.
Yeah.
You empower them for skill. The plans you spoke about that you have, the 5-year plan and other plans, can they be tweaked and implemented? Are these documents available for the government, the present Ministry of Education to look at and to
This has been with the Ministry of Education. This was presented, I prepared it to present to the Ministry of Education. All the documentation, CAPE is available.
Right,
and so I heard mention of the possibilities of introducing CAPE now, right? Yeah. There is a plan, the direction to implement CAPE.
Right.
There is all the information. CXC is in charge of CAPE, just how they are in charge of examinations at the secondary level, the post-secondary level, and the University of the West Indies is in charge. And it is recognized worldwide, not only in the Caribbean, but worldwide.
So what you're saying, after you left and you were moved to the Ministry of Health, what are you saying? What happened?
Well, practically nothing happened.
Right.
Practically nothing happened. They did not follow the plan, the 5-year plan that we prepared. When I'm not saying I prepared it, the education or management team
Right.
met and involved the private sector too.
Mm.
Yeah. And if you were to look at the education and training legislation, because that legislation was passed through all the Caribbean countries to set up with the private sector. Which one shows that? The private sector would be chairing.
Yeah.
Before I left in 2013, my last documentation was to advise the private sector, because that was part of the Constitution, to assist and chair the development of skills in Dominica. And they asked me, how much do I charge? I said, no, that's my contribution
All right.
to help us in that direction. The greater involvement of the private sector in our vocational training.
Yeah.
Because we are training for our young people to be employed in the private sector.
And they will benefit from this skills.
They will benefit.
Yeah.
They will benefit, and they will give the attachments and everything and coordination between the college and the private sector to help develop, and that is the foundation of the development of a country. See the direction that St. Lucia and St. Kitts and those other countries, we have not followed that path.
The former
I'm
minister.
not even talking about Trinidad and Jamaica and Barbados, because they embraced everything.
Right.
Yeah. But our smaller OECS countries, they also embraced it and they moved. Dominica was far ahead.
Right. And you, as a Dominican, play a vital role in the development of that program.
Oh Lord, man! I used to coordinate. The whole program
From
for
what year?
all the OECS, all the OECS colleges in the region.
From what year?
From 1990 to 1995.
When you lived in St. Lucia that time.
I was based in St.
Right,
Lucia.
that is,
and so.
You're listening to the Workers' Voice this evening in studios with me, Mr. Danny Luge from the Roseau North, and also from Roseau North, Danny's neighbor as well. But from
Doctor.
Bios, Dr. Herbert Sabra.
Sabra.
Just want to say good evening to Sterling, Texas. I hope you're listening. And all the others. I'm Norman Sabruch, his son in St. Kitts.
Yeah.
Good evening to you. We are Sabi here with us tonight, and we're speaking education. We're going to take a few calls. We end at 9. But Mr. Sabruch, as I open up 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 305-432-9624. That's overseas. 305-432-9624. You can also WhatsApp us at 265-4334. 265-4344. And you can go on Q95. There's about 73 people viewing right now. Q95 FM radio on Facebook. And you can follow us there as well and make your comments. Very important discussion. Mr. Sabruch, I can tell you, I was part of the National Youth Council. And we were very much involved in pushing skill training modules. And Mrs. Doreen Francis played a very vital role to let us get that thing in Aurora, that facility in Aurora. I was on that committee, and it's just close up right now. And they're doing youth training program there. You had modules in Wesley, Portsmouth, Cassibus, Grand Bay, Roseau. You had youth training modules, and you don't have that anymore.
Continuing education and training,
and
that was so critical.
Telling you. And another thing as well, in Parliament, Danny Luge is there on several occasions. I asked this government to see how they can work with the owner of the former Nehemiah Comprehensive in Jimmy. You have a facility there that is not being utilized, and see how we can bring some youth training programs there. I have not seen anything. And it goes back to what you're saying. They just leave everything, Kaibul everything on the shelf. But where are our young people, Mr. Sabruch? The young men from Bios, where are they?
You know, it is sad well, in Biosh, my contribution was, I remember I was in opposition, and I had a discussion with the the gentleman from Britain,
British High Commission?
British High Commissioner,
Yeah.
based in Barbados, and at a cocktail party in Parliament, and so he asked me some questions. Where are you from? And I gave him details. He said, when I return to Dominica, I want to visit your little village, Biosh.
Yeah.
So I told him, you know something? When you come back here and visit Biosh, you must leave a mark.
All right.
He told me, oh, what mark? I said, when you come, we will discuss that.
Yeah.
So when he came, and then we organized fishing,
Right.
broth, fried fish, you know, all kind of things. And at the middle of the function, under the net loft, he asked me, you mentioned that when I come here, I must leave a mark. I said, okay, yes, I prepared a project. We want you, we will pass through the village, you will recognize that we do not have a community center, and we do not have a fishing thing. We were setting up a fishing cooperative where we can store fish and have everything. He told me, sure. We brought him. I said, we have the land already. And so he gave $100,000, 100,000 US dollars
Towards the project.
Towards the project. And we build the communities. If you go to Biosh, you'll see up, toilet facilities, and below we extended it. We get $50,000 from the Canadians to provide the equipment, the deep freezers, the facilities, and everything. And so, and that was a model in Biosh. And we set up Eat Fish Day. Over 11 years, it was part of the national agenda. Every Sunday after independence, everybody find themselves in Biosh with their cooler. They could get ice and fish and live the cheapest fish in the country. All that has gone. We no longer have that.
And that is where you train. I go to Biosh for fish sometimes on Saturdays. And that's why you train some people. Some of them go there and fish to make the fish spots or to go on the fad. But some of them don't even know how to repair the nets. And that was some of the trainings that came out as well.
That was part of the training.
Yes, I remember that clearly.
We got an OECS award because we set up Eat Fish in schools every Friday, last Friday in the month. Eat Fish in schools. The farmers used to provide the food. The fishermen used to provide the fish, and then the Ministry of Health used to come and deliver a lecture to our young people in terms of nutrition and everything else. That was a sort of not one man show, but everyone involved.
Community, yeah.
And we move it from Dublin to Colihu,
Right,
to even Colibistry at one point.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice. Hello. Hello, good night. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Hi, good night, Mr. Sabert.
Good night.
Good night, Pat and Danny.
Good night.
Mr. Sabert, you talk about that Caribbean education. I remember in the 70s, it had something like that, a youth camp, I think under the Patrick John government. We had a lot of people from the different Caribbean islands who was coming in and train the same skills you're talking about there. And you find a lot of people, even from Dominica, get a lot of training. Some come out into auto mechanic construction. And it was a very good thing. I really appreciate it. I know you teach in Marigot, and I did meet with you sometimes up there. I really appreciate your whole education system. And I think that is what we need to get back for where we lost. And if we don't take those opportunities, things will get more worse. And Danny, I want to say something to you. I live around in the Goodwill area, I bring an idea up one of those times, I think, on the DBS talk show, and that old physical planning building, which is a very monument. It's not something to be destroyed. I was thinking of making ideas to the government that they could use it as a tourism center, like the old mill, develop it as a tourism center, because what you find, you have a few guest houses around Goodwill, and most of the people is French people. When they come, they want to go somewhere where they can buy something locally. They should remodel it as how, and give the history of it, what it was its purpose, what year and what time. That is one of the ideas, and I believe physical planning and housing and land and survey are supposed to be in one complex, like where it was at DBMC. You have to move too far from one another to get to one another. They move housing and they bring it ministry. I believe housing and land and survey and physical planning supposed to be in one building. You have to move too much up and down to get a little service. I don't want to be too long. But that's just an idea done in your area. They just find that it's very important that we should have.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Excellent contribution.
Contribution from WhatsApp. We need use skills in welding, machine operation, excavators, sewing, landscaping and gardening, electricals, mechanics. The Goodwill School location should be set up as a technical training school. Maybe it's the area it is, and they must find the location. Because skills training is critical. It's critical. Yeah. We have too many of our young men there were unskilled. Yeah. Some of them can't even lay a block. They don't even know what it is to lay a block or tie a steel. And you learn that in school at the JSP program. My brother-in-law was a JSP teacher, was teaching the entire West Coast. He retired as Burton Vidal. Yes, right. And you had students up to now. Sometimes students meet him who are big contractors calling him sir. You know?
The time is what, 8:55. We quick winding down to the end. But I would not like us to leave studios before I ask Dr. Sabich, to comment on the dilemma of our students in universities in the US, where the university is giving them 1 week to vacate if the government do not meet tuition. Sabi, as a former Minister of Education, when you hear of such a dilemma of our Dominican students, what comes to mind?
It is sad, It is sad. Yeah. In Houston, we set up, I got involved as a member of the scholarship committee, raising funds. Almost every week, the Houston Association, Dominica Association, we raise funds, and we have a scholarship committee that try to help Dominican students and so. But Dominicans and our young people going overseas for training, that has been an established part of the budget. Mm-hmm. And you make provision for that. You don't wait for the university to tell you that you are owing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That should be budgeted, and on an annual basis, you know that these are the number of students that you give scholarships to, and this is the commitment that you have to meet. Yeah. The university should not be telling you that you are owing me. That's a policy. Yeah. That's a government policy, and it is sad. And what is more sad is the fact that the students are afraid to even open their mouths and to explain the difficulties that they are having, and their parents are mute. Now, that's the stage that we reach here. People cannot voice their opinion and say what challenges that they have, and we need. The other thing is that when they are trained, most of them have to stay overseas because employment opportunities in Dominica is not there. Right. because our economy is not moving in a way where we can employ our own brains for the development of the country.
Brain drain.
Yeah. So you have brains going out and not coming back in.
Very sad. To somebody saying on WhatsApp, to Dr. Sabroch's point, it's obvious this myopic and corrupt regime has no interest in the development of Dominica and zero interest in our young people obtaining the high standard of education leading to gainful employment. Somebody else made another point that is I wanted to just highlight as well. All you remember, Vince Henderson said that Dominica already had its college, so they wasn't interested in CXC Cape. So these are the challenges that we have. Dr. Sabroch. Dr. Sabroch, the time is short. I told people that we move from 2 hours to 1 hour, and we have to be as compact as we can. But I asked you a question earlier on in closing. What are the best? What would you recommend right now in youth training, youth skills training? What would you recommend? Because that is what is lacking right now. Our young people are very idle; they cannot use their hands. What would you recommend going forward?
No, there must be policy direction. Right. You set policy direction based on information. Right? You look at the data. That is something that we did through the OECS when we were planning. Right. You have a sector survey, right? And that gives you the information, because valid information, all decisions must be based on valid information. Right. And when you have that information, you prepare a plan. And you must have a committee of persons from the different private sector, government, youths, and so you have that committee and that plan to prepare a plan, a 5-year plan. And you break the 5-year plan into 1-year plans, but you must know where the resources are coming from to implement the plan. And that has to come from decisions from the government. Yeah. The government has to go whether to write projects to get assistance from overseas. And their overseas governments, Britain, the British Development Division, the United States, even Germany, Australia, different places that are willing to help to develop that plan, to implement it. And it must be at the secondary level where you can do CXCs in those skills too, and continuing education. Continuing education apart from the college and the secondary schools. When I say education and training.
All right, that is important.
Youth skills training, right here. And the college must set a pivotal example, because it's the people who are trained in the college who will get back into the communities. Not only fishing, and so there should be a program if fishing is one of our major direction, getting fish to sell, to export, and everything. And agriculture is key.
Adding value.
Agriculture is key. Right. Because you need to train our young people to get into agriculture and make them recognize that you can benefit. Right. Yeah. So policies and operational plans and initiatives to give us direction, and the involvement of the private sector, government, and youths and everybody else.
Well,
one last call.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Blessings to you all.
Blessings, sir.
Hello, Tyrone.
I just wanted to congratulate the doctor.
Okay.
What is he, a doctor or a professor or the both? Sabi, blessings to you and congratulations on your accomplishments, sir, or in. All the best. And what is happening to us in Dominica, it is by design. First and foremost, you systematically and deliberately impoverish your people, and automatically they become disempowered, divided, confused, submissive, and they're twins, and they're identical, quite identical. Is ignorance and wickedness. Can you tell them apart? Most of the times you're confused. It has to be a good analytical process to conclude which one it is. Greed, or maybe ignorance and wickedness. Not greed, ignorance and wickedness. So the people get caught. We get caught and we really cannot even differentiate because the confusion is there. But thanks for the effort, gentlemen. And I name again, Sabi.
Yes.
Can I call you Sabi, doctor?
Oh, yes, man. That's my...
Sabi,
Yeah, thank you. Well, let me just give my closing comment. I know and I knew beforehand that 1 hour would not be enough for Dr. Herbert Sabroch. As I said earlier on in my introduction, he's one of my mentors in every aspect of my life. I really appreciate him sharing with us, and I know he have much more to share with Dominica. So, Sabi, thanks very, very much for coming in tonight. I'm hoping that we'll have another opportunity soon for us to explore other areas, because I'm sure you'd be willing to comment on health, on education, and things politics. But let me just say thanks for coming in for 1 hour.
Okay, my phone is on non-stop. Bob Marley, Leroy Schilling for telling me my voice line is not working. I'm seeing the light is on, so I am not sure, but we're running out. We have run out of time. So next time, just let me just say, and you have any closing comments, Dr. Sabroch?
My closing comment is that I would hope that, you know, people listening and those not listening, share the information that Dominica belongs to us. And we have to take the decisions based on information to guide us forward. Because Dominica can make it, but we, the people, must be involved in the decisions, the direction, and the action that is required to help our economy, to help our people. It hurts to know that almost every week you have, I mean, young people involved in Jolly's massacre.
Oh yes, Mams. Yeah. The robbery. Yeah.
Our young people can do better than that.
Yeah. Idle Hands is there for workshop.
And sometimes we blame them, but we don't blame the direction that Dominica is taking to guide them in education and training. That is key. Education and training at home, in school, and in public.
Yeah.
We have to do better than that. And I am prepared to make my contribution.
Right.
And I'm hoping that there are others like me who are willing to make that contribution so that we can move on the direction that we want for Dominica.
The Ministry of Education calls tomorrow to join them to make a contribution.
Yes.
As a consultant, you'll join them.
Yes, certainly I'll make my contribution.
All right.
To give guidance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Herbert Sabroch. You listen to the Workers' Voice as we wind up in studios with me, Daniel Luge, and Dr. Herbert Sabroch. I am privileged to have Dr. Sabruch introduce. Before I would meet him and call him Sabi. Now I have to call him Dr. Sabi. We played some cricket together as well as a teenager. I just want to thank him for being there and touching on education and especially training, skills training, and that is important. And we need to get our young people skilled. As I said, when you leave primary school, leaving certificate soon after school, you go to training. If you go by a tailor, you go by a seamstress, you go by a baker. Good evening, final call. Hello, are you there with us? Person not listening. I remember my brother Augustus John, he passed away, told me as he finished high school, my father brought him by Mr. Seaforth Scotland, the late Seaforth Scotland, and tell me I have to learn a skill. And he was one of the best masons in Salisbury before he passed. So you had to learn a skill. You have a lot of people who are bakers, seamstress, whatever. They had to learn that as they leave school. So Mr. Herbert Sabruch, Dr. Herbert Sabruch, thank you for being here with us on the Workers' Voice on Q95 Radio. Join us next week for another Workers' Voice. As we always say on the weekend, go to a place of worship. If you worship on Saturday, on Sunday, go to a place of worship and thank God for the week and also ask Him to guide you into the new week. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful weekend. God bless you and your family. Goodbye and good night and goodbye.
Cattle farmers across the country is that that was their land that they've been working on for decades, that their parents had, that their grandparents had. A lot of these land rights, nothing's written down. It's very difficult to get the legal documentation to be able to argue and prove. So this is going to be an ongoing discussion, but certainly the power perhaps dynamic has shifted in the favor of indigenous communities. In a country where the farming lobby has been increasingly powerful, especially in the 4 years under Jair Bolsonaro, it's a real boost to indigenous rights. We're in a very different political age now. We've got Lula da Silva, who has made very clear that indigenous rights and land rights are a priority for him. But, no doubt this is a boost for indigenous communities in Brazil, who are often seen as they're small communities. They hold a lot of control over land, but they've also been there. The ancestral lands are theirs. And this is a really important step, I think, for so many indigenous communities in the country.
And obviously it paves the way for other claims. How many do you think we have waiting to put their case forward?
I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of different indigenous groups across the country. So the $1 million question, how much of this will, open the doors to discussing land rights and the rights of indigenous people? But certainly, I expect this to be the start of many more.
Katie Watson in Sao Paulo. In the last 18 months, the US Congress has approved more than $100 billion in aid to Ukraine, with weapons accounting for nearly half of that amount. But some Republicans on Capitol Hill are complaining that the war against Russia is proving too costly for America because the money isn't translating into large-scale Ukrainian victory.